literally just chatting, looking at comments and whatnot. And just for safety, whenever I see a bot, I will, so I can ban it properly. Let me just stream. Okay, perfect. So now whenever a bot shows up, I can just immediately ban them. Very interesting setup tonight. What was I thinking? Okay, might be able to do a little something, like so. I had to stop doing this stuff. Okay, I can see chat. Y'all can see me. I'm what's that? What's going on? Okay, we're good. The setup's good. Good. You know, not too scuffed anymore, not as scuffed, I hope. Like I said, tonight's stream, very interesting. But still gonna be pretty chill. One of these days, I'll actually have a camera to show you guys what I'm working on. But I don't know if I need a more powerful computer or just figuring out a setup that actually works more than anything else. So, yeah. Right. I gotta remember how I'm doing this. I started this like a week ago and I haven't really touched it since. Alright, 4. That's how a lot of my crafts go. I'll work on it for a little bit and then I get distracted and I do other things, or I just lose interest for a little bit and then I don't touch it for what feels like a lifetime. And this is gonna be so not caring for the earth. Sound like I don't care about the earth, but like I have bought those weird circle looms probably 4 times within the last 10 years. I get them, I dabble with it for a little bit, and I guess they're like circle knit loom things, and not the mechanical one that you like crank. It's the one where you have to like go around and manually lift them, and it gives you this weird leverage hook thing to help you with that. And you have no choice but to buy it as a set of like 3 to 4 of those. Maybe it's more like 4 or 5. But either way, I have bought numerous of those sets, like at least 4 of them over the last 10 years. I don't touch them for about a year or 2. They move around my room, and then I throw them away eventually because I realize I'm not gonna do anything with this anytime soon. It's taking up space, and I just never throw enough away. It's crazy. And I actually currently have a set of those, unless I finally throw them away, and that's a bad situation. Especially since I'm really wanting to move in like 6 months. I gotta get rid of... It feels like I have to get rid of everything I own because nearly everything I own, I can't take overseas. So I really gotta like start living minimally, or in the most minimalistic way possible. That's difficult when you've lived with a lot. It's not like I have a lot of things, I just suck at throwing shit away. Now then, if any of you are wondering what I'm weaving, or want to know any details about it, please ask away. But I'll start off by letting you know. I started weaving in university. Took a weaving class, but I obviously like a lot of textiles. I have a sewing machine. I've sewn. Well, I haven't made a dress this year, but so far, literally every year since I've gotten my sewing machine, I've made at least one dress. I guess it averages out to one dress a year. That's pretty dope, I think. I have since thrown a lot, like nearly every single one of those dresses away within the last 8 months because I need to move and I don't wear most of them, and well, on account of the fact that I've made near every dress that I've ever made has been to some extent for formal attire or wear, and I'm also not confident with my body, so like the one dress I have made that's not formal, I have only worn like 3 or 4 times. It's a cute little summer dress, if anyone's wondering. But anyway, I like textiles, right? Love it. I learned to started crocheting when I was like 7, and it's, aside from cello, it's probably the only real skill I have that does not directly help me get a job in any way. I guess maybe real historical skill that has real historical bearing and would be beneficial to like a house, a home, or an individual, as opposed to today. You have to be either just really good or just like really, really fast, which does not necessarily correlate to being good. So anyway, I got that textiles, right? History of textiles, and I of course was going to school for fine arts and trying to get a second degree, but I kept changing that one, and then I got so close to the end and to nearing graduation and realizing that I would be in a lot of debt. So anyway, back to started weaving in university because a class was available and it was a acceptable elective for my degree. So I, of course, loving textiles in general, took the class. Of course, I took weaving and I loved it. And aside from the couple of writing assignments that she was required to give us, and I had zero interest in doing, let alone completing, and ChatGPT finally became available for general public use. This was back when ChatGPT was completely free, by the way, and everyone, where the only way that your professors actually could prove that you used ChatGPT was because you forgot to remove 1, your prompt, and 2, the weird thing that it gives you at the very beginning where it just restates your question, and or 3, you forgot to get rid of the essentially watermark that it put at the end of everything saying generated by ChatGPT. And now ChatGPT does not put that watermark at the end of everything, which is kind of fun. But It is integrated into it if you directly copy and paste. So anyway, I did this weaving class. I liked the weaving class, and I did not like the writing assignments, at least in weaving 1. So I literally ChatGPT'd all of those assignments, if I'm not mistaken. And I suspect my professor knew that, because I did some of the other longer ones where it was just like, I really can't use ChatGPT on this. I can't risk it. But anyway, yeah, loved weaving. Pretty fun. I would like to say that I'm basically an anarchist when it comes to anything that I learn how to do. You teach me the exact correct way to do it. I'm gonna lock that in for the most part, and then I will start doing it my way, because it's faster, and it, at least to you, it still looks like I'm doing my job. And I have absolutely outrageous ways of remembering how things are used, or you know, how to remember how to do things. Like, for instance, in Weaving 1, when our teacher was explaining to us how to do the heddles, or no, hold on, I got like meat stuck in my tooth. So she was explaining to us the whole process of dressing the loom. And during the process of dressing the loom, at some point, regardless of how you like to dress your loom, some people dress it I forgot the proper terminology, and my brain is a dirty grave. So some people dress it from the back of the loom, and some people dress it from the front. But either way, you have to go through the heddles at some point. And so during this process of explaining to us how to dress the loom, she eventually got to the point of explaining floats and if they were necessary and how to use them. Now, generally speaking, everything we did in that class did require floats, except for our very first weaving on the floor loom, which was a plain weave. But otherwise, you know, it's usually pretty beneficial to have a float, unless you have an awesome loom or you're an awesome individual and you know how to be able to, I guess, create salvages that are plain weave while the rest of it is whatever the fuck your main thing is. And then anyway, aside from that, she was trying to explain to us how the floats work. I got it as soon as she explained it. Some of my peers did not get it as soon, and they're like, I don't get it, this, that, oh, how do I do this? I'm oversimplifying how they were reacting, but basically a little bit of confusion and just trying to understand. And I'm over here, an anarchist who just likes being, I guess, funny. And I'm like, well, first off, let me explain to you something. The floats, they are just extra pieces of thread. You can incorporate it, like, how you do the floats doesn't really matter. I'm a bit of an anarchist. Actually, no, in that sense, I'm not an anarchist. I like floats, and I like to incorporate my floats into my warps as much as possible. Well, as much as possible. If I remember, I like to incorporate it into the number of warps from the get-go, and then I don't have to be weird later. And it's also more beneficial in the long run of the project, I think. But anyway, all of your warp threads go through these holes in the heddles while you're dressing the loom. And the floats do not go through the holes in the heddles. Now that's a very simple way to explain it, and very easy to understand when you have no other knowledge of weaving and how to use looms. And you're not also trying to learn and remember a bunch of other steps in the process. Very easy, very simple, of course. Like, that makes so much sense. Floats don't go through the holes, and everything else does. And of course, the floats are on the very outside of everything. Almost like they're the cover of a book. I don't know, maybe I've gone a little too creative with that explanation. Going off the rails. But we're in the middle of class, people are confused, and I'm just like, so the floats get no penetration. Because of course, I actually just have a dirty mind, or I've spent too much time on the internet around perverts, or... No. That sounds terrible. What was my childhood on the internet? Fuck. No. So, that took everyone off guard, but then suddenly all of my peers were like, oh no, I get it. So, the floats aren't going through the holes. Okay, nice. And then everything else about me in weaving class is basically, I haven't actually read a lick of that book. Y'all know more than me about terminology and anything else. I've just very much taken to the actual act of weaving. And I'm a very much hands-on person. And I weave really fast. I was like weaving circles around my peers. And of course, I loved the weaving class so much. I actually took it multiple times. Now that sounds like more like, oh, you failed and you have to retake it. Nah, that shit costs money. I passed weaving 1, and then I was in advanced selection. I took it 3 times. And let me tell you, I was in there, I think, especially the 3rd time I took it, because that was last spring, spring of 25. I was already done with all of the assignments my professor had given me. Or I was over halfway done with all of the assignments she had given me by the time we were back from spring break. Now, I live in the city I was going. I went to university, right? And I have no real social life, and I don't like to travel, and I'm a broke bitch. I mean, I'm a broke bitch, and I was a broke bitch then, except I had the moniker broke college student, so it didn't matter so much. And I did go to a private university, so a lot of the people on my campus actually did have money, and their parents are paying for them, or they were foreigners, so they were actually going off and doing what foreigners do when they're in America during spring break. Yeah. So anyway, loved it. But there was another girl also taking advanced selection, so this was her 2nd time taking weaving at all. This was my, I guess it was my 3rd time. I took weaving 3 times, 2 advanced selection, and then weaving 1. 2 advanced selections and then weaving 1. Okay. But me and her had basically been given roughly the same... We had been given the same amount of assignments. I think our difficulty level may have been a little bit different, but because of that, we were like in the same time frame. But I need y'all to understand, I got to school January. We started spring semester in January. My teacher gives me my assignments. I have my first assignment done. Sorry. My my first assignment was on and off the loom by the second week of classes. So I was over a month ahead of schedule on that first assignment. The second assignment I was done by like start of February. Well, yeah. And I remember I was rushing to get that assignment done because I, ever so ambitious, gotta take my allergy meds. Was in my last year of university doing my capstone. I decided that my capstone would be weaving. Well, and I wanted it to be a very fine weave, which I have become obsessed with. Like I am some kind of masochistic freak, let me tell you. But because I'm a masochistic freak, I wanted the 30 dent reed. We have a 25 dent reed, but I didn't want to do math and like make my life more complicated than it already was. But my second project, my second weaving project for the weaving course was utilizing the 30 dent reed, a very fine reed. And if you're wondering, it helps you produce. I don't really know how to explain it. Because again, I didn't read enough books to actually know what the fuck I'm talking about, let's be honest. But there's 30 spaces every inch, and that means that, like, basically thread count. You got thread count sheets, you know, you got the 600 Egyptian cotton. Yeah, there's 600 threads per inch, ideally. Like, that is the minimum, let's be honest. It might be slightly more. Sometimes it's slightly less. But so long as it's in range at the spot that they measure, it's correct. A 30 dent reed allows me to get 30 threads per inch. And you can be a little extra cynical with yourself too. You can like put 2 threads in there at a time. Holy shit, I might need to look at my paperwork to see what I did. I wrote a lot of stuff down. I think I actually stuck with the 30 dent. You can get awesome stuff on a hand loom too. So anyway, I was a masochist and I was doing a project that used the 30 dent reed, the one 30 dent reed our campus has, okay? Which meant I could not really start my capstone weaving project until the 30 dent reed was no longer in use in the weaving classroom. Now luckily, because of the whole process of my capstone project, I didn't need it while I was working on the weaving project, but oh boy, it really lit a fire in my butt to get my second weaving project done, which is why I was done with it by like the start of February, which was still about maybe half a month ahead of schedule. I know the second assignment needed to be done before spring break. My third assignment would have been due almost immediately after spring break, and that one did take time. That one slowed me down and really brought me back on par with, it didn't, I think to the other weaving students in weaving 1, but also the other girl taking advanced weaving, it really made it seem like I wasn't weaving circles around them. Meanwhile, even though I had greatly slowed down in the weaving course, I was still doing a bunch of weaving BS for my capstone. For one, for the capstone, I was working on a completely different loom, one that I wasn't familiar with, I hadn't touched before. Sure, it's the exact same type and model, but y'all know how technology is. any piece of technology. Some don't like you, others do. You really just got to work out their kinks as early as you can, and I needed to work out the kinks of a loom I had never touched before. So I did a quick, fast, and dirty weaving project on that one. It wasn't quick, it wasn't fast. It was dirty though. Nah, not really. And it was great. I still have it. I was also using new equipment that I didn't have. I was using a bunch of new equipment and needed to really figure out how I was going to do things. So I was practicing essentially. Now the whole thing about it being quick and fast, I was supposed to use about 3 yards of warp. So my warp was supposed to be 3 yards long. Sorry, not 3 yards, no, long. It was supposed to be 3 feet long. Maybe 6. I had never used a warp mill before. And I thought I had the hang of it. I did not. And, you know, when I misspoke earlier by saying 3 yards of worth of warp, that is actually what my weaving became. What the quick, fast, and dirty was. I had 3 yards worth of warp, and I really didn't want to like waste my warp either. I bought it with my own money, and whatnot. So I had to do that. You know, mom didn't raise no fool. You know, they taught me not to waste food, but I sure as hell am not wasting yarn either. So yeah, it was supposed to be quick, fast, and dirty. I did churn it out, and I need y'all to know, it was like 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, it was probably a little more than 3 yards, because that's only 15 feet. Just know. I guess it was about 15 feet. That makes sense. I'm trying to remember because I dangled it to see like just how long that piece of shit was. But it did show me. The project did what it was supposed to do, which was show me the weird kinks that this particular loom had. I never brought the oil in. Like I have oil for my sewing machine. I never brought it into university to like clean up the rusted parts, like I honestly should have, to make my life a little bit easier. I just put up with it. It was, I think, between me constantly forgetting to bring it, but also just, I'm already fast at weaving. My timeline is fine. And I was really gaming the system with that capstone project. Like, I am passionate about the topic I chose to make my art about, for sure. But I was still done and over with school. So I really just needed a project that I knew I could remain passionate about for the duration of said project and not feel burnt out. Second, I also needed to make sure that the scope that I set for myself at the beginning was big enough and ambitious enough that it would be accepted, but also big enough and ambitious enough that if I couldn't fully deliver on what I said, it would be all right. Now, that is a swindler talking. That is the swindler in me talking, the one who always wants to cheat people out of money, but then you got me and my little angel on my side who is just not content enough with being an evil piece of shit. Unfortunately. Holy shit, have I fucked up here? No, I haven't. Not yet, anyway. You know? And it really worked out in my favor. Hold on, give me a second, guys. I'm gonna very quickly go grab something out of my living room so I can refer to it. This is gonna be awesome. Please ask me a question, by the way. Wait, is that a message? No, it's not. Okay, back from the living room. That's awkward as hell. Oh, why is it adjusting like that? Okay, there we go. I think I initially wanted this project to be like 20 different 13 or maybe 14 by 14 squares. Oh, too far. Okay. Let's see. That ain't right. It's supposed to be 2025. I'm a fool. I bought this shit in 24. Okay, so I would have to look at some of my actual written things, like, that I typed up. But from what I gather here, because it was basically supposed to be 2 of everything, like an exact opposite of whatever I first created. So yeah, I think initially it was supposed to be about 20 designs as a rough idea, but of course while we're going through the iteration process, we're like, oh, well, that's a bit redundant, and also I cannot realistically make that many in the time frame that we have. So I'll have to cut down on the number that I want. Maybe I can just go with half this initial number, and so on and so forth. Now then, I also had personal things going on, i.e. I ran over debris. Oh yeah, y'all remember this, because it was last year. I ran over some debris in the road, and my car was out of commission for basically a month. I was Ubering to and from school, which basically meant, or to and from everywhere, from school to work to home, and it basically meant once I was off of campus, I was not coming back to campus, which is generally how I do things anyway. But rather than my long nights on campus where I'm in the weaving room like maybe 2 to 3 hours after my class ended at like 8, you know, so basically still on campus until 11 or 12 at night. I basically had to leave campus at about 9 or 10 because it was just too dark. And even though I constantly told my professors I'm from this side of town, like, I'm fine, I still don't want to be outside in the dark waiting for my Uber to show up when there's literally nobody else around, you know? I also don't really want to walk campus either. It's not like it's that bad. But, you know, you still gotta take precautions. Meanwhile, I've literally walked my dog, like, on a 45-minute walk after dark in my neighborhood, which is considered the bad side of town. That's neither here nor there. That's a tangent that nobody asked for. But, you know, so things really slowed me down, but I was really getting pissed with my professor on that one. This guy was like, I don't think you're making enough progress. I'm just like, bitch, I really wanted to tell him, bitch, shut the fuck up. You don't weave, you don't know how to weave, you don't know how long each step of the process takes. It takes literal fucking hours just to put this shit on the loom. And the fastest part, which I am the fastest at on campus right now, which I was, still am, I probably still am. I hope there's nobody beating me. But, like, and it only like, it was really annoying, because it was like, I spend, like, I did my calculations forever ago, and I know it's in a, note on my phone. I spent over 40 hours. Hold on. Nah. We gotta know for sure. We're not estimating. Nah, we're not estimating at all. So it's gonna be... Oh my god, I'm so sorry about that burp right into the microphone. It's gonna be college, 24 to 25. It's gonna be spring. Apex. Okay. How long did it take? I wrote this shit down. Okay. Yeah, about 40 hours. So I had to calculate it, and basically I didn't time every part of the process, which I should have, but I was busy and tired and pissed with people. And here, let's break down some things. So we're gonna say that it took me about 1 hour to warp. I know for sure it took an hour. Alright, that's the absolute minimum time that it took to warp any of those. However, I am absolutely certain for a fact it took more than an hour to warp, and I did it 3 separate times. Right? So for all of the time spans, just know the number you're hearing is the absolute minimum. Alright? I know it took longer for most things, but I didn't pay attention to exactly how long it was. Alright, so an hour to warp. I did that 3 times. 4 hours to get the warps through the heddles. 8 hours for 8 heddle frames. Okay? That's a lot of fucking warps. Sorry, that's a lot. Now that one, I know that it took 4 hours to get through each because I did both of those at very specific times. Basically, whenever there was nobody else in the building, I scanned in, and I was there, like, I think for both of them, I basically came in after I finished my job at McDonald's at about midnight, by the way. Like, I got out at about midnight every time. I would drive to school, go up there, and do the heddles, and I know for both of those times, because I completely finished all 4, like each group of 4 each time. So anyway, for each of those, I know for a fact, because I looked at my fucking phone, I'm in there from 12, and from about 12 a.m., and I don't leave until basically right at 4 p.m. Also, I know for that one I rounded down because I spent a few hours doing the first 4 heddles during class and a little after class. So I know for sure that's where that remaining hour comes from. 2 of those hours come from. It's just really hard to get anything done, in class, ironically. Alright, then 3 hours to get the warps through the reed. 3 hours to attach warps to the other threads because of the production weaving technique. We don't have to go too far into that. I was using the production weaving technique to help me get through this faster, because if I didn't do the production weaving technique, then that would mean rather than 4 hours to get through 8 heddles, it was actually going to be 4 hours to get through 4 heddles 3 separate times, 3 hours to get through the reed 3 separate times, and that would have greatly increased the amount of time it took to do this project. Way more than I actually ended up doing. Now, it's been about a year since I looked at this, so it's not as fresh, but luckily I wrote it down. Alright, I did spend about 3 hours detangling and winding the warps onto the back beam. and an additional 2 hours for the 9-foot warp. There is one warp where I had 5 of my squares, or I guess hankies, handkerchiefs, whatever the fuck. They're kind of whatever. I might use one as a washcloth. 2 hours for the 9-foot warp, and because that one had 5 things, I needed at least 9 feet of warp to be able to accommodate all 5 on there. And luckily, I did a lot of planning in the very beginning, very little input from people because of the way the class was structured, and it's actually not very ideal for weaving. But yeah, and I did a lot of thinking and designing and just figuring out, okay, so I really want these designs and they work very well, but if I do those designs, then I have to do different warps, and that means every time I have to put a new warp on the loom, I take time away from what I could be doing, from being able to do more weavings. So it would mean if I do more warps, I have to do fewer weavings or shorter weavings, and that's fucking stupid in my opinion. Now then, and then 1 hour of actual weaving for each square. I had 9 squares in total. I really wanted 10, but life was lifing, you know? I think it turned out well, you know? And then my results. So you guys can't see these numbers, unfortunately. But the blue number is how long it took me to weave using the production weaving technique, and the red number is how long it would have taken without the production weaving technique. So I had a couple of silk weavings. I kind of want to mention that, like, in weaving, or with this whole production thing, I was tying, I had like a bunch of extra thread length that was still attached to the back beam, so I would just tie my new warps to those, and then just chug on through, you know, reset up the loom, and it'd be perfect. It saved a lot of time doing that. And then it's a bit of a production situation too, but it's just basic weaving at this point. If you know that the work you're creating is all going to use the same warp setup, then rather than making a whole bunch of warps that are exactly the length that they need to be for each one, you can just make an extra long warp that is long enough to accommodate the total number that you have, and then you can get a bunch of variation that way. So the difference in time on these various weavings is not going to be too different from, like, if I use the traditional or the non production setup versus the production technique that I used. So, like, there's just not big enough change here. But I had these fully silk weavings. They were all silk in the warp, and they were all silk in the weft. It took me about 12 hours to do those using, like, for the project. If I hadn't done it, then hold on, let me think about this. First of all, well, yeah. I didn't account for something. My math is wrong here. No, I may have accounted for it. It's just for the silk weavings, it really didn't matter. Right? Okay, so 1 hour to warp, 4 hours to get it through the reed, through the heddles. Well, shit, I forgot about the reeds. The reed. Probably about an hour and a half, honestly. Oh, wait, no, I've got it. Never mind. Okay, so an hour to warp, 4 hours for the heddles, and then 3 hours for the reed. Dang, I am not giving myself enough credit. I forgot how long it took. 3 hours to attach. Nope, don't need that. 3 hours for detangling. So yeah, that's putting us at 10. Then an hour actual weaving, but that one I did 2, so that's 12. Okay, yeah. And then 13 would have been, oh, sorry. Who knows? And then I did weavings. I called it half and half weavings, but it was like half silk, half wool in both the warp and the weft. I'm not going to explain exactly what the order was. Just know it was exactly a 50-50 mix. And it was important to the thing for the art, but you know, I could go on a tangent about art in university, and I fully respect. There are artists out there that are not. There are a lot of artists, sorry. Because the way I was phrasing it made it seem like it would be all. So there are, I think, a majority of the artists out there making art because they love it and they love people who truly appreciate it. There are a lot of people out there who make art because they love it and they want the people who also enjoy art in a similar way to engage with their craft. Super cool. Love those guys. However, a lot of the mainstream stuff that is making artists like buku bucks, like the Anish Kapoors, especially the ones doing abstract, and this is all my opinion, they are making fun of you. And I would say to a certain extent, I kind of was with my assignment. Like, I genuinely did not care about the aesthetics. It's a piece of art. You can touch it if you want to. Eventually, people are not going to know why I made it. It's just going to be a piece of cloth that decays with the earth because it's a natural fiber. And you know, one day my reason for creating it will not accompany the pieces themselves. So I do not care what other people think of it. It's not that deep. I really look at art as it's not that deep. For me it was, I guess, in the beginning. But I think during school, they are teaching us a lot about how to look and think and talk about art. Cool. And I don't think my professors or any of them really wanted me to walk away with my thoughts and beliefs on art, and I made sure they did not fucking know about my thoughts and beliefs on a lot of things, especially art, you know, considering I was getting a fine art degree. It's fucking trash, dudes. It is terrible. Do not get an art degree. Like, don't get an art degree. You don't need school for it, and you might just be a better artist without it. I mean, if there are specific techniques and you know how you learn best, like for me, I know how I learn best. The fine art degree was really because I started off with a different degree, and fine arts was actually going to be the second degree. And I hated getting a music degree more than art, but that's a story for a different time. I don't think the art industry, or at least fine arts, is all that interesting. The visual arts, if you're not doing something practical, it's very unlikely you will ever find a job that will make use of your degree. Specifically, your degree, where that is the extent of your job. Even me currently, I tell people I'm utilizing my degree at my current job. In all honesty, the things that I learned for fine art, like specifically for the fine art degree, are wholly unimportant for the job that I currently have. Well, maybe not wholly, but I use very, very basic fine art specific, the fine art specific things in my job. I use a lot of the graphic design. If I had been smarter and turned work in on time, I could have had 2 degrees, but I am an idiot who makes reckless decisions for dumb reasons. But I digress. The graphic design degree is going to be far more useful to me, despite the fact that I don't have it. My graphic design education is far more useful in everyday life than the fine art one. Now, there's a lot of jobs that I apply to that are supposed to be for graphic design, but you know, you get down to it and it says, oh, you need to have this type of degree or equivalent. Obviously, the fine art is equivalent, and I think the only reason why the fine art is equivalent for these graphic design degrees is because they know damn well a lot of people in fine arts also took plenty of graphic design courses, and I venture to guess that a lot of them are in a similar boat to me. After all, graphic design degrees are actually newer than fine art degrees, so there are an astounding number of people who went to school to get a fine art degree and learned the absolute basics for most entry-level graphic design jobs. I'm not going to hold you, I've looked at plenty of entry-level graphic design jobs, and I bet you if I had graduated just 2 or 3 years earlier, I would have had a far easier time finding a job in graphic design, because AI hadn't taken over the way it has, but also employers aren't as dumb as the ones I currently work for. Well, they must be, they really might be an outlier, the ones I currently work for. But that's neither here nor there. That fine art degree, I don't really use it at this job of mine. That's sad. Of the things I use at my job that could be considered specific to the fine art degree, it's basic art skills, or not even skills. Color theory. I learned that in a course that every fine art student it's basically gen ed. I learned it in a fucking gen ed that I have to take before I can take pretty much any other class that would actually fulfill my degree requirements. Which says something. And everything in those classes is pretty much a lot of what you may have learned in an art class in school, or at least in my experience. I hate that phrase, but yes, in my experience, I think literally everything that is my fine art, that everything at my current job that is fine arts specific, is something you could have or should have learned before university. However, I think that being said, just to say, learning it is cool, but actually being competent at the task is a different thing. And I think part of it is just doing it on the daily. You know, I spent a lot of time in university on nearly every single project for these fine art courses. Oh my gosh, this looks so awkward. Let me just bring it down. Oh, didn't mean to rotate. How do I zoom in? Have I forgotten how to do that? Okay, what about this way? Oh no, is that? Oh, okay, I figured it out. Oopsie. Okay. That's the whole thing. If anything, I wish, so there's some specific things that I actually only learned in my various graphic design courses that I use every day at work and try my hardest to explain to my boss and coworkers, hey yo, or at least the ones that are not also graphic artists, Because, oh my god. Like, the file type, so long as it's an image file, we can open it down here. But, can y'all make sure that it's higher quality? Because these companies, these individuals, they keep sending, one, AI-generated stuff, which I get it. But two, they send you the lowest quality images of their logo or art. And it's just like, they must have took a screenshot of this, because no. Or, like, you know it's a screenshot, too, for some of them. You're like, what the fuck? Hasta la vista. I forgot how long this shit might take. I don't even know it yet. What's that? Oh, okay. So I think, I'm trying to remember the situation. It was like, yes. So there was this one thing. This customer, we digitized their logo for embroidery. Actually, we didn't digitize it. We sent it out to a company that did it for us, which is what we do a lot, because we don't have enough people, and they don't have enough people, customers, to have someone on their team do it. Which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I understand it. Outsourcing is a necessary part of any company, right? It happens. It's what you do. But there's this detail. Now, clearly, and this is what I think happened, the company that we outsource our digitization to looked at the file, looked at the size that we said it needed to be, and did not put in a particular detail that it's a negative space. I guess this detail was supposed to be an eye, but they didn't want the embroidery there. So anyway, the digitization company definitely looked at this and they were like, this is entirely too small of a detail at this size. It's unlikely or impossible to be able to get this to look good once stitched out. And you know what? I think they were right, because I myself sew. I have a sewing machine. I mess around with textiles, and I mess around with printers. I love all things print. Get me involved with that as much as humanly fucking possible, and I will have the time of my life. Right? So I know with print, when it comes to small details, like the dot of an eye, that you really can only go so small. Like, before the detail will not be there. It will get muddy, it will not really look like what it's supposed to, or it might not even be printed at all. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Once details get too small, it's hard to know what you're looking at or what's supposed to be there. And also, you're at the reign of these printers, and printers are very precise, mind you. They're very, very high tech, to say the least, and very precise machines when they are not acting up and, you know, being annoying. And these embroidery machines are also accurate. However, our printers are able to go to a much smaller space. And our sewing machines, right? Because that's really what they are, entirely over-engineered sewing machines. But the smallest that you can really stitch is just barely larger than the needle itself, because the needle is larger than the thread. But whenever you do the use the needle, you poke a hole in the garment. You got a hole, and if the next space that the needle is supposed to penetrate, for lack of a better word, is, you know, the same, it's essentially the same spot that it just poked a hole in, you're not getting the detail you want. Or you might rip a hole in the fabric itself and then essentially have the exact same problem. You're stitching in the same place as far as the needle is concerned, and you won't get the detail you were wanting. So I would think, you know, I know exactly how small is too small for, you know, most print design things when it comes to like these really small details. I would imagine the minimum size for embroidery details is similar, but definitely larger than that of a print job. So let's say that the smallest any particular detail can be is a millimeter wide by a millimeter high, right? Let's say that's the smallest that your printer can go and still maintain the crisp quality that you're used to and want. Let's say that the embroidery machine is a little bit larger than that to really get the detail you want. Let's say you essentially can't have it be smaller than 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters. Of course, understand we're exaggerating. In all honesty, 1 millimeter is probably the absolute smallest you can go, but you're really teetering on the line. Probably. I don't know. It's very interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I think one of the last streams I did with a textile, I was warping and playing blooms at the same time. And I failed a lot on that one. That's what I learned. I shouldn't stream. I shouldn't do anything weaving at the same time as that video game. Bro, talking into the void is really making my voice hurt. Now anyway, I had a day at work. Oh my goodness. That shit was stressful as hell. I feel exhausted every time I come home from that place. And you know what? I don't think it's healthy. And, you know, apart from just having the big sad, clinically big sad, I am having some big sad situations lately that I think might be directly correlated to my current job. See, burnout happens real fast, and I think that's what's happening. And I genuinely do not believe it has anything to do with the fact that I still work my other job on the weekends, because let me tell y'all, I may work with old people that are dying on the weekends, and I have lost some good ones recently, and it is very depressing and very sad, and definitely does have an effect on my mental. I still feel very relieved whenever I reach the end of the week at my current, the graphic design job. When Friday hits, it's the end of the day, I am still very relieved, like extremely relieved, which is not really a good sign, I don't think. Because even when I worked at McDonald's, I didn't feel that way until we got a new owner who got rid of all of my managers. wasn't worth staying anymore. You know? So I think a lot of it has to do with that. And as much as I think my coworkers are nice, and you know what? The people who are a direct cause for me being stressed, they are actually clearly nice enough, I think, on the outside. But they are hella stressful. Them being bad at their job, I think, bad at management. Everything's a reaction. It's very stressful. Guys, watch out for bad workers or bad employment if you can. And it's very difficult because I know exactly why I took the job. And I don't know if I went over it in stream at all, but that job, there's a few things that have happened that have definitely made me not like it. But I was willing to push through, and then this week, hella stressful. And I'm not sure, it's not even just the ebb and flow, and they're like, oh, well, you know, this isn't even in our busy season. It's just like, I don't fucking care if it's your busy season or if it's our busy season or not. You hired me fresh out of university for a lead position, and you don't seem to understand that, like, there's a reason university students don't get put into these positions early on. And I gotta say, most of us clearly aren't fucking ready for lead positions that have this many responsibilities. They're also constantly trying to squeeze more work and labor out of you and do things that are outside of your description. And you know, that's cool. You know, change the expectations. Moving the goalpost, that's what it is. Constantly. And that is the kind of thing that will burn you out. And it makes even people who seem very nice and polite hard to work for. Because let me tell you, I loved my coworkers back at McDonald's. Sorry, love is a bit strong, but they were a pretty awesome crew. However, communication was good. Management was good. As in good at their fucking jobs good, not just being good, nice people. I know there's this one guy that apparently had anger issues. That is why he left early a few times. But you know what? Very nice guy, from my experience. Never was angry at me, but I'm also not an asshole. I'll tell you what, there was this one guy that got me angry, but I don't have anger issues like that. The guy who had anger issues actually had like court mandated stuff and was basically told when he got hired by like, hey yo, anything happens, you go on. And that's all good. Anyway, like, we know the stereotype for McDonald's. Also, maybe I should like commission something for Ryoko to have, for me to have a fucking McDonald's uniform and then just come on to stream the way I would talk on the intercom, which, mind you, if you ever went through my drive-thru while I was on and you heard, will that be all? Will that be all? Thank you. 1 double quarter pounder? 1 bacon double quarter pounder? Will that be all? What size? Medium? Thank you. Just know, I was actually being a condescending asshole. I just learned that, like, customers only find everything rude whenever I talk in my normal voice. But I don't want to talk like this all day. Every day. Sometimes I would get a little creative and be like, will that be all? Wait, that doesn't sound right. I gotta hear it. Will that be all? Nah, I don't have it. It's been too long. I have to like actually be in the environment to get back into it. But like, just know, if I started going to my day job, like if I went into work tomorrow and talked like that, first of all, I'm being a condescending asshole. It is not nice when I'm talking to you like that. I do not think the world of you. I think you are a dumb fuck who is easily swayed swayed by the way a voice sounds as opposed to the reason it sounds. I guess I don't fucking know. You think someone's being nice to you because their voice sounds pretty? Bitch, please. Did I count this right? No, I didn't. Oh man, I don't think I did this right. I know this is center, but also I didn't count how many threads this bitch is supposed to have. Well, no, this should definitely, hopefully be enough. I mean, I've got plenty of petals, but I don't have a different sized reed, hence why I'm even doing it the way I am. But shit. I'm kind of glad I don't have another webcam right now, because honestly my room is very, very chaotic right now. And I would still have to figure out how to set it up so that I don't accidentally reveal my face. Or I would have to wear a mask while streaming, doing weaving stuff, reading craft stuff. Because it's just, at least during like setup, it's a lot of moving around. And then even after I get all of these threads through the reed, I've then got to get them through the heddles, and then I got to tie them onto the back. But here's the thing, I guess I like comfort. Like, if I want comfort at one part of the weaving process, I'm still getting discomfort at the other, on another part. And I know starting from the back works wonders. But I think with the level of things I'm doing, and I have a really small, let me think words. I have a really small loom. So, and all of the projects I do are small projects that just don't require a lot of thread. And because of that, they also are always varying greatly in the number of threads. So I can't even like do a setup that would work well for a while. I'd have to take it apart every single time, and that just doesn't work for me. Now then, luckily, about a month or two ago, I decided to bring Eclipsa's kennel into my bedroom, which has been in the garage for like pretty much ever since I brought her to the house from university. I guess there was a good few months where I tried to use the kennel, but I really need to train her and get her used to a kennel, assuming I can actually bring her with me in October. I gotta find a place to live that'll allow her to go with me, because otherwise she can't go with me, and I have to continue to look for places, and then I'll just like zoom to quickly find a place and then immediately be like, hey yo, I gotta break my lease. Be like, hey, what's the shortest lease I can do? Actually, that might be more costly, but I want Eclipsa with me because she's 11, and a year away from her is not fair when she spent the majority of her life with me, and I'm selfish. Let's be honest, guys. I'm a selfish asshole, and I want her to spend the last remaining years of her life by my side. And I want to be by her side during the last remaining years of her life. Is that too selfish, guys? So anyway, played this recording back, I would be forced to reckon with how bad my ADHD is. But I refuse to be medicated, mainly because the medicine that works, I forget to take. And second, it's illegal in the country that I'm trying to travel to. And by all means, I worked very hard to get off of all my medications. So I'm not going back on them right now, which means my job is stressful. And if I want to actually remain in some kind of good mental situation, it is the only thing that I know for sure is causing me mental stress. So I need to leave. I need to leave this job. I cannot stay at it for much longer. Honestly, I would much prefer, I would much prefer to work for McDonald's again. However, I would want to work at the McDonald's I used to, but I literally can't work at the McDonald's I used to because it's a new franchisee. Because it's not the McDonald's I worked for almost 2 years. My franchisee left, and now some dumb asshole from Texas is running it. And honestly, I don't like the guy. This is going to be the most controversial shit you'll ever hear from me. Because he's Nigerian. And I don't know of very many Nigerians who have that strong of an accent who are not immigrants. Even if they're first generation, they never have that strong of an accent. I mean, unless they've lived in Nigeria for the majority of their life, but what else? So, anyway, also based on his age, I find it unlikely that he is not. I find it unlikely that he wouldn't be an immigrant. So anyway, most controversial thing, I hope that the way this guy has been handling that situation and the fact that none of us got our W-2s, I hope that it fucks up his visa status and he gets deported. I want him deported for some petty ass shit, honestly. I would say that. You don't have to like it, but it's my opinion, and I really don't like that guy. I say this, oh my god, people are gonna think I'm racist. Or don't like immigrants, because I said this guy's Nigerian. I made Ryoko this color because I wanted her to be as look as much like me as possible, but I also felt like I didn't want her as dark as me, because god damn, I feel like in order to get a more accurate representation of myself, I would have to show the designer what I look like. But I still want some stylistic qualities, like black girls don't walk around with hair like this. Not naturally. Plus I still wanted to look aesthetic, like I'm a fictional being. I'm an EV dragon with followers. I have a religion called Ryokoism. It's just a subtle lore drop. Just a subtle lore drop. But seriously though, I do not like that guy, and I kind of want him to be deported for stuff. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Eclipse, I forgot you were in here. I love you. So anyway, I feel like I have been... Oh, no I haven't. Dang. Guys, loading this thing takes forever. I'm gonna sit up a little higher. There we go. So this setup is scuffed, as we know from the beginning. Actually, no, you don't know that, because my mic was muted the whole fucking time. Like, the entire time. I have an extremely scuffed setup today on account of wanting to weave and talk on stream. No. Okay. I have no idea what the tracking looks like right now, but I'm sure it's just as scuffed as tonight's whole setup. Okay. That should be better for me. So I can do... I still can't do that. I tried this earlier, but maybe I can make it work now. Okay, that's marginally better, I think. Yeah. And then I can... Ooh, perfect. Nice. Much better. I'm trying to remember suddenly if I ever said where I'm trying to move in October. I mean, if it's not obvious, I am trying to move to Japan. German is just a language that I kind of like learning occasionally. It's kind of a cool language. But, in all honesty, if anyone's curious of why I ever started learning German, when I was in middle school? No, when I was in high school, I learned a very intriguing statistic about German men. Holy shit. Nah, who cares? We can share it. Apparently, statistically, they are the most endowed on average. You know, like, average, they are the most endowed there. So anyway, me being a little perv decided, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn German, and then I'm gonna go to Germany, and we can all figure out what the rest of my thoughts were there. I don't know. I think I slowed down on learning the language because, I don't know, I must have had the realization, maybe even subconsciously. And what exactly do I plan to do with endowed German men? I've never been active before. What's that gonna do for me? Nothing. That's what it's gonna do for me. And then I'm a shy, awkward individual who is unlikely to actually comfortably engage in conversation with unfamiliar people in unfamiliar places. So again, what was I planning to do? Learn German to go to Germany? To be with well-endowed German men? The only well-endowed German man I could probably be with is one who, I don't know, is a creep. And like drugs me or something. Like, kind of a similar thing with Japan, but I've really wanted to go there for a long time, even longer than Germany, so. And, you know, if anything, my biggest reason for wanting to go overseas, I don't know, ever, anywhere, is because I am an awkward individual who feels like they don't fit in here. But if I go to another country where they don't really speak English, well, I guess Germany's out of the question there then, huh? But where they don't really speak English, and the culture is very different from America, then my feelings of not fitting in are actually valid. And no one can psych me out of, well, you know, you're just, or, you know, tell me that I'm wrong or some shit. Because it would actually be, there would be a lot of good reason to feel like some kind of outcast and a person who doesn't fit in if I move to Japan. Oh, you mean I committed a social faux pas in Japan? Oh no, I mean, I guess like the foreigner excuse, but mainly like, it's not like I plan to go to Japan and not try to fit in. It's utterly impossible to know all of these social rules and expectations when you didn't grow up in it. right? So whenever I feel like I have failed to do something, I will know that it's probably because I genuinely have. And it's something I genuinely do not, well, I guess even here I genuinely don't understand it, but I can give myself a little bit of a pass. I don't have to beat down on myself so hard. And, you know, trying to have Blasian kids doesn't hurt. No, that's just a joke that I tell people. It doesn't, I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing. I mean, two identity groups, Black and Asian, in which a ton of people either like you because they're fetishizing you. I mean, can you imagine if those two identity groups just got together and had kids? I don't know, man. I don't know. It ain't that deep. I really don't like where I live. I mean, I like my friends and whatnot, but there's not a lot of people around here that I find myself ever wanting to be all that close to. And, you know, is it really going to change if I go overseas? Oh, most definitely. Not guaranteed to happen. It's very unlikely to happen. Especially if it's only something with me that has me feeling this way. Oh god, why did it stop like that? Oh, that's why. It's very weird streaming while doing weaving stuff. One, because it's the first time I've ever done a stream like this. But also, it's awkward for me because usually whenever I'm weaving, with technology around me, it's because I'm watching videos, or I'll have like aggro squirrel. I have no idea if I'm reading that correctly or saying that correctly. I listen to sci-fi audiobooks, I guess. I mean, it's usually on YouTube, and there's this one particular guy. But the channel is Aggro Squirrel, but I'm also just saying that the way I've read it. I don't think I've paid enough attention to figure out how he actually says his channel name. Or if he's ever said it. Has he ever said it? Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's not that I don't pay attention. Maybe he's never said it. But moving on. Love it. It's like a lot of hi-fi, which that's like humans fuck yeah, or humans frick yeah. Yeah. Depending on if we're trying to be PG or not. And I find it very fun and interesting. I think one of my favorites is Ars Magica and Humans Don't Make Good Familiars. That's really, I mean, those are my two favorites. Sometimes I'll roll back and listen to All About the Limiads, but really I always come back to the Ars Magica and Humans Don't Make Good Familiars, because they're one of the longest ongoing ones for me. Well, I guess since I started watching the guy, it's the longest running one. They're the longest running series. I mean, I guess Ars Magica, I'd have to go back through and see, but still, you get the gist. And it's something to kind of listen to while I go weave, and then I'm like, wah. You know, I do my thing. You know, I am realizing this is probably so loud because the mic is right next to that. I mean, since I'm only dressing the loom right now, I was just giving a demonstration. I am nowhere near the point of needing to utilize those things. You know, another hour or so, oh, significantly more than that, I have I might have to double check that stuff. And also, I don't want them to get mixed up. I feel like they are already a little mixed up. Anyway, you know what? I'm gonna tie these bad boys together over here temporarily. The unevenness is getting to me. I gotta do this other side too at some point. And I pray to all that is holy. I actually remembered to incorporate enough warp ends for there to actually be a for there to actually be floats. But I know myself, and if there's even a small possibility I forgot to incorporate floats, I probably don't have floats. There's also the situation of, so I'm making a baby blanket for my future nephew. And this is part of why I did a stream where I was playing balloons and kind of warping in the background. But, I warped all of the threads that are supposed to be the black threads, and then I dyed them, and then I let it sit around for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, collecting dust. And then I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna warp, and I really needed to get it done at that time while I was thinking about it, otherwise it would never happen. So I did a stream. Then basically the same thing happened. Didn't think about, or talk about it for about a week or two. But I also kind of dropped it because after doing my warp threads during stream, because at some point during that time I realized, oh no, I'm warping all of these white threads. And once I start weaving, I'm supposed to be switching every 8 rows to black thread. But the only black thread I have in this material, this is some kind of mercerized cotton, so the only black thread I have in this material is the black thread that I dyed black. To be in the warp. So I had to think hard. I'm like, okay, well, I could, but I don't really like the process of dyeing. I don't have gloves. I think they're gonna be stained. So I was like, I do have other black thread. Oh yeah, I've got the wool, but I don't really want to mix wool with something that I know isn't gonna shrink that much. And I know that the wool I have is going to shrink. So that's not gonna do. Oh, okay. Well, then I remembered I do have silk. I still have black silk. So, and it's, I dyed it way back when for a project last year. So I still have black silk left over from that. It should be more than enough to be used for the weft. Honestly, it was probably enough for the warp as well, depending on how I wanted to do it. But I don't really want to warp my things. So I have enough black thread for sure to make this project. I've got two shuttles, 4 bobbins, and a spreader bar. I don't actually know what the fuck these things are called, but I'm calling it a spreader bar. It's gonna help me keep the tension though, or keep it stretched out to the width, to not hinder my weaving process. You know what? Is it something about this time? It's only 8:40. Is it something about streaming that makes me yawn like crazy? I think it's also the fact that I'm genuinely exhausted at work. Yeah. I keep coming back to work and I don't really want to talk about that on stream. It feels like I take time away from why y'all are here for anything. Whenever you stop in. But I think that is actually a good ending for tonight's stream. Clearly I'm very exhausted for a multitude of reasons, and I don't need to bring that into the stream, you know? It's not fair to y'all. It's not why you're here. It's not why I stream. And I'm not gonna do something that I think you're like, I don't want you to, I don't want y'all watching me and then I just talk about, I mean, I guess I do talk about my personal life, but like, I don't want you guys watching me and then all you're getting is me complaining about acute things that have happened in my recent life. You know, I want to be able to tell you stupid stories in the most creative way, like talking about my dog. I love my dog and I want to bring her with me to Japan, and I'm trying to figure out how to utilize her breed, the breed that she is. I mean, she's a fucking mix, but she's enough border collie. She's border collie mix, right? Good, dependable dogs. She is well trained. I mean, she barks a hell of a lot, but like, she does listen to commands, and she also listens to non-verbal commands. So that's well trained. That she is well trained in that sense. Not the barking issue. I don't know how to get that under control. But you know, trying to utilize the whole border collie thing to get her to maybe help get me approved for an apartment, and you know, talking to a family about it, and just like, you know, she's a shepherd dog, very close companion, good dogs, and I don't know how I even got to it, but it was really funny and like very well worded. And I was like, you know, the Lord is my shepherd and my dog is his companion. Oh, I know what it was. So I was like, ooh, you know, sure, my dog really has like that drive to herd animals, and unfortunately your toddler is a lot like a sheep, you know, and she's a sheepdog. She's a shepherd's dog, you know. That's what her breed is made to herd animals. And you know, the Lord is my shepherd and this is his assistant. You know, so don't mind, let her continue to do the job that God made her to do. Yeah, I've got to like help her out and figure out how to get her exhausted. And oh boy, I love her. She's a little freak and I love her. She humps a peep whenever she doesn't get what she wants, or you know, she's just mildly excited and isn't currently running around the house. But as soon as she stops humping the peep, she'll go back to doing her regular Zoomy activities. But you know, like I was saying, I don't want to use stream as something for me to vent about deeply personal things. I mean, I guess work's not deeply personal, but you know, I'm also so tired, guys. I gotta get that shit checked out. Is it the lack of sleep? I did stay up till 3 a.m. reading Yaoi, but I'm tired every time I stream lately, and it's part of why I call myself a sleepy dragon, but it it is unhealthy. It's clearly getting to a point of lacking health benefits. So I am going to end this stream earlier than I have in the past, and I am rethinking whether I should have just did a throwback Thursday stream with karaoke or just did balloons. But anyway, see ya. Oh wait, I got the whole thing. Have a good night. Oyasumi nasai. See you later. Matane. And bye. I did that so backwards. I was nowhere near ready to actually hit the buttons. Let me just try that again. Have a good night.